No fear. No political correctness. No wokeism. You're listening to Underground USA.
Thanks for downloading, listening, and sharing. My name is Frank Salvato. Before we get into this segment of America's Third Watch, I need to talk about the hollow feeling I have in the pit of my stomach after watching the first 2024 presidential debate. It's certainly not a time to be celebratory, and for a few reasons. First, as I talk about at the beginning of the radio segment, what the world witnessed in the debate and Biden's performance was the ultimate act of cruelty at the hands of some of the most despicable people on the planet, the Obama 2.0 puppeteers. They're a selfish, opportunistic gaggle of totalitarians who are obsessed with attaining and maintaining power at all costs. They humiliated this man on the world stage and have been doing so for the entirety of his tenure as president. Understand this. There will be no meaningful pivot away from the Marxist agenda if this element is not completely purged from the government at every level and in every department, agency, and commission. Secondly, as a close friend pointed out in a comment on social media immediately after the debate, and I quote, his words, not mine, "Democrats don't take a dump without a plan. Everything is about staying in power. They wouldn't have put Puddinghead out there without having thought the matter through. They're up to something," unquote. He couldn't be more correct. Unlike conservatives and Republicans, and to an equal extent libertarians, the neo-Bolsheviks, or the far left, of the Democrat Party have been playing the long game of transformation since the turn of the 20th century. They've been playing the fundamental transformation game for over 120 years, and like the oblivious frog in the pot of water that has been slowly increased to a boil, the American people haven't noticed the unhealthy amount of Marxism that has crept into not only our government, but the American ideal. Biden's intellectual slaughter in the debate was a planned sacrifice, a scheduled execution. Obama 2.0 needed to introduce to the Democrat rank and file the fact that we, who have been saying Biden is in a deep cognitive decline and unfit for the presidency, were and are correct. In doing so, they've created that transformative chaos needed to effect abrupt and enthusiastic change. Remember Rahm Emanuel letting the cat out of the bag about how to leverage crisis? Thirdly, and this is the part that has me quite disturbed, now, Obama 2.0, they get to select a replacement for Biden on the national ballot without any input from the voters. All they have to do is force a brokered convention, and they can install the candidate of their choice. Make no mistake, that selected candidate would have never been able to win a national election going through the primary process. This hand-picked candidate will be more radical and more aggressive and have a much looser relationship with the truth than any other Democrat ever elected to office. The candidate will be a devout neo-Bolshevik Marxist who will make Barack Obama's lust for transformative change to socialism seem like a third-grade sociology experiment. Should this selected candidate win, God forbid, he or she, given the massive debt held by our country and the debilitation of the rule of law and fidelity to the Constitution and Bill of Rights, will be the last American president to be elected in our constitutional republic. That era will be over. The transformation to totalitarian, central government, democratic socialism will be complete. The United States will be worse off than any socialist country in the third world. Only the people will still be forced by our government to pay the world's bills. Until we can't. So who will the neo-Bolsheviks of Obama 2.0 select to install? Gavin Newsom, the man who single-handedly destroyed San Francisco and the entire state of California? Hillary Clinton, the Alinsky-loving Marxist whose lust for power and the spotlight drips off her fangs like a carnivorous predator? Michelle Obama, the ultra-racist who literally hates the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights, who said publicly that she is ashamed to be an American? Democrats don't have a deep bench, and the Marxists are in control of that party and will direct the outcome of the convention in August. Another friend on social media prognosticated that Biden would be persuaded, and I said it that way because you need to hear the nefarious tint, persuaded to step down before November, giving Democrats the mantle of having elevated the first woman to the Oval Office, Kamala Harris. Her only purpose will be to grant pardon to Hunter Biden and unconstitutionally issue pre-indictment and pre-conviction clemency to Biden and those who committed high crimes during his administration. Given Obama 2.0's contempt for the rule of law and the Constitution, this is not outside the realm of possibility. Harris will not, however, be at the top of the Democrat ticket in November. Their anointed constitutional assassin will be. The only way to circumvent this scenario is to not only win the presidency by a sizable and indisputable margin in November, but also to win supermajorities in both houses of Congress. Right now, the momentum realized by the Trump administration isn't being realized in the down-ticket races, which is incredibly problematic. This is why I have a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. This is why we have no business celebrating Biden's dismal debate performance. We are up against a ruthless, power-hungry, evil cabal in Obama 2.0. It's a battle for the heart and soul of America, a battle in which the very ideas of freedom, individualism, and Americanism hang in the balance. Pay attention, people. This is much more serious than you could have ever imagined. When we come back, our segment on America's Third Watch, broadcast nationally from our flagship station, WGUL, AM 860 and FM 93.7 in Tampa, Florida.
You're listening to Underground USA.
When someone is having a stroke, every minute counts. Just as putting out a fire quickly can stop it from spreading, treating a stroke quickly can reduce damage to the brain. The clock begins ticking as soon as you spot the signs of a stroke, because some treatments can only be used if the patient reaches the hospital in the first 3 hours after symptoms appear. So don't wait. Call 911 right away and get the person to a hospital immediately, even if the symptoms go away. If you think someone is having a stroke, remember the word FAST. F is for face. Ask the person to smile and check whether one side of their face is drooping. A is for arms. Have the person raise both arms and see if one arm drifts downwards. S is for speech. Ask the person to repeat a short phrase and notice if their words sound slurred. And finally, T is for time. If you spot any of these signs, call 911 right away to get the person to a hospital fast. Strokes are medical emergencies. The sooner a patient gets treatment, the better their chance of a good recovery.
News, insight, passion. AM 930, The Answer.
Well, I'll tell you, Frank, this was really something. We've been talking about it all morning on the show, of course, and I've been dying to get your take on what happened at the debate.
It was an exercise in cruelty. And I mean that sincerely. Joe Biden had no business being on that stage. He is now, the world has to admit that he's cognitively declined. It's not a cold. That's just ridiculous. He is not there mentally. And if you want to see just how cruel everything is, the clip of Jill Biden afterwards praising him like a 4-year-old. You answered all the questions, Joe. Yay!
It might be ice cream. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? Part of this cruelty is the fact that not only that they allowed him to go out there, but that they did it to achieve plausible deniability before going into the convention. So that they didn't look like they were just jettisoning in somebody that wasn't radical enough for their agenda. They needed to humiliate this man on the world stage. I'm not a fan of Joe Biden's. I think he's a shyster, and I think he's a charlatan. I think he's been that for his entire tenure in public life. Mm-hmm. An opportunist extraordinaire. But what they did to that man last night was cruel.
I think a lot of people across the highways and byways, Frank, agree, and because this, he came off as the elderly grandpa who should never have been put in this position, because a lot of people, many people across the country have an elderly relative. And again, who might display these same kinds of signs. Age is not the defining factor, but it's what's happening to Joe Biden is so indicative of what's happening to a lot of people. And a lot of people know that, hey, if Grandpa showed up at the Thanksgiving dinner table like this, you'd wonder, something's really wrong with Grandpa.
Age has nothing to do with it except for the facilitation of the onset of the dementia.
Right.
What's the bigger issue here is the cognitive decline. You cannot have the leader of the free world with that kind of a mental state. You simply can't. And that's why you saw all of his sycophantic media supporters last night, not an hour afterwards, not 2 hours afterwards, 5 minutes after it was done, throwing this guy under the bus. Person after person on the left in the media said, wow, there's panic. There's panic. And you knew it was the marching order words that came from high on up. There's panic within the Democrat ranks. It's bordering on panic. As a matter of fact, there's a list of like maybe 19 people in the media who used that same word, including Van Jones and one of Biden's former communications directors. Panic. So what does that indicate to you? That August is not going to see a ticket with Joe Biden on it.
Yeah, I think that is a real distinct possibility, much greater than it ever was. But there's something else too, Frank, and that is behind closed doors. Recently we heard that, behind closed doors, Biden is really sharp as a tack and he knows everything. But they knew that was a lie. Well,
this all comes back to the point that we now have proof positive that he's been puppeteered. This is proof positive that he's been puppeteered. And the puppeteers behind the scenes are the same people that were behind the Obama administration, and they are ruthless. Ruthless. They will do anything to maintain power, and they will do anything to push their agenda forward. They have a non-existent relationship with the truth, and on every subject and at every level, to the point where they would commit this extreme measure of elderly abuse. If anybody else was doing this and it wasn't Joe Biden, the president of the United States, there would be social services called in.
By the way, there's Donald Trump, just asking away, these wonderful questions. Why has Joe Biden ever really fired anybody? When Donald Trump said that, Frank, during the debate, there was like a light went off with this, or a bell went off, because I think I said out loud, as I mentioned to the audience earlier, as I'm watching this, and I thought, probably because Joe Biden doesn't have the authority to fire anybody. If what we suspect is true, that, all this is that he's really become a figurehead. I hate to say it, but it's kind of fits.
Well, it's obvious now that he's been a figurehead. When we first started talking about the Biden candidacy back when he was running, right before the election, everybody saw something snap. You know, the left was saying we're making things up and that's not really happening and blah, 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 blah. But now you can't refute it. You look like a moron if you refute it at this point. So he's always been a figurehead. The fact is the handlers don't want competent people around Biden and in the spotlight. They want puppets. They want people they can control to move the agenda forward. I've been saying this since the beginning, and some people rolled their eyes. Other people were just vehemently supportive of me. But Obama has been pulling the strings. Obama's team has been pulling the strings. I wrote a piece not too long ago. There's over 19 people in close proximity to the president who were the same people that were around Obama. The only two people that don't have an official capacity are Valerie Jarrett and Eric Holder. But everybody else, they're all holdovers with the same mindset and the same agenda. So they don't need someone making decisions for them. We're being run by a neo-Bolshevistic Politburo. And that's one of the reasons that we've got to make sure that Trump wins not only the presidency, but a supermajority in Congress, so that we can start pushing back against these Marxist policies that have dragged our country down. Look at any country in South America that follows a socialist agenda and watch how it's spiraled down into garbage. We're there at the beginning. We're crawling that roller coaster to make that big dive down into garbage.
Yeah.
You know,
we don't have a president has the ability to say no at this point.
No, the only thing he says no to is the ice cream he doesn't like. But that's not because he's inept. He's incapable. He's mentally incapable. He might even be a nice guy. I doubt that. But he might even be a nice guy. But he's just not there.
Yeah. Very vacant stare, that he had.
Anybody who has ever been in the medical field at any capacity looked at him the second that he took the stage last night and knew he was juiced. Just looking at his eyes, you could see that he was juiced. This lame attempt at saying he had a cold. I think NBC is the only outlet that tried to push that narrative that he had a cold, that his voice was bad because he had a sore throat. Just blatant dishonesty.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Well, Keith listening to us this morning sends in a message saying Biden certainly exceeded my expectations. He was able to face in the right direction for the whole 90 minutes. Thank you, Keith. And I don't know about you, Frank. I thought a couple of times he might actually try to wander off the way he was kind of looking around, in his surroundings.
The man was struggling to maintain his focus point and attention. And again, it's sad. It's very sad what these people did. And when I talk about these people, and we can't say this enough because they're not going away. These are the people who comprised Obama 2.0. They're ruthless. They're cruel. They don't care who they harm as long as they can maintain power to move their agenda forward. You think about how past Marxist revolutions have taken place. There have been great purges of people to the point there were tens of millions of people were slaughtered. That's not taking place under this revolution here that's taking place in the United States right now at the hands of the Marxists. But they've captured power, and their piñata happens to be the person they put out there in front so they can hide in the shadows. So when you talk to people about politics going forward, because now there's no avoiding it, you've got to talk about it. You've got to ask them, who are these people who were so incredibly cruel to this man and who are so ruthless to want to be able to do this to him in public? We have to start talking about the power behind the man, because that's where the power is. And until I see Valerie Jarrett's moving van pulling into Chicago again, I lay the blame at her feet. She was born in Tehran. She's an apologist for the Iranian mullahs. She wants to see this Marxist crescent in the Middle East, willing to throw Israel under the bus. She's ruthless. And it's time that we get back to an honest government in the United States that actually has compassion for the citizens.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Frank, what you're talking about here is ominous, to say the least. And I'm glad you're saying it. But what worries me, and this is what I want to ask you about, what worries me is that after tonight's debate performance, there's got to be a desperation that sets in with Obama 2.0, for lack of a better term here. And what do you think they're capable of? Because they are ruthless. I mean, between now and the election, they've got to see now that if the democratic process takes its course here and people go out and vote for Trump, that's bad for them. What do you think they're going to try to pull?
There is a theory out there, and it's one that needs to be heeded, is that they're going to put so much pressure on the man to bow out that they can get Kamala Harris in there for just a little bit longer. He'll resign, and Kamala Harris will be in there for a little bit longer so that they can install Gavin Newsom as the vice president, and Kamala Harris can pardon Hunter and Joe with with a blanket immunity that would be unconstitutional. They haven't followed the Constitution once since they've been in power, so why not make up new authorities like they have been all along to cover this guy's butt? But make no mistake, Gavin Newsom was in Atlanta last night, and there was no audience that was supposed to be at CNN studios. So why was he there? Because he likes the buckhead at night? No. He was there because they're grooming him just like they groom everybody else. And this guy's a full-blown Marxist. He destroyed San Francisco. He destroyed the state of California to the point where people are abandoning it left and right. And that's the guy they want to go to. The only other alternative they have is Hillary Clinton. And we've got to keep her away from the Oval Office because she is a Marxist.
Yeah, but I can you imagine if you were Gavin Newsom, you'd be wondering, Hillary could be coming for me at this point.
You have to put everything on the table, quite honestly, but Gavin Newsom tends to be too stupid to understand what's coming down the street at him.
All the way up in Seattle, Washington this morning, we appreciate you so much, Joan. She says, writes in and says, wow, first of all, the countdown clock to the debate had me a bit rattled, reminded me of a rocket launch. Well, it looks like Trump did a rocket launch, and I think Joe Biden kind of fizzled on the pad there. And she says, second, after a week of preparation, Biden's performance was so poor. And lastly, she says, I believe the next 4 months are going to be very interesting and history-making. God bless the USA. Have a very energetic and fun show. Kyle, well, thank you, Joan. We appreciate you very, very much. Thanks for the direct message. I think a listener, Joan, there had a great a comparison. Yeah, like a rocket launch, but yeah, Biden would have been the rocket that just went on the, it didn't go anywhere, at all.
You think about this. The man took a week off from, and this is believing everything that the left says. Right. The man took a week off from governing the country, and that's the best he could do.
I know. It is absolutely mind-boggling. Well, Frank, do you feel like taking a phone call this morning?
Sure.
All right, here we go. We got Mary in St. Pete who's been hanging on very patiently. Thank you, Mary. Welcome, and you're on with Frank Silvato.
Hey, good morning. I'd like to say kudos to the man that called last hour and mentioned Rumble and the website where he's been getting the, quote, real news, because that's what I've been reading, which actually says that this Joe Biden that we're looking at is really not the Joe Biden that everyone thinks he is. He's either a clone, a double, an avatar, James Woods, Jim Carrey, and has been since day one. That goes back to telling the truth about the election in 2020. That needs to be told, as well as the truth about COVID. Until that is gotten out there as honest information, that people can see, and that the world is being shammed. Foreigners know this. People that come here actually want to go back to where they came from, but they can't because this country's turning into them anyway, to what those countries are like, where they're ruled by a certain elite at the top anyway, which is exactly what's going on here. But I got to tell you, if they don't start telling the truth to people who know the truth, you're going to get a blowback from people who are looking for the truth about what's going on, and try to quit milquetoasting the truth, because the whole government is in shambles, and it needs to be straightened out. I think the only way to do it is just turn all the communication off and just start blasting the truth out there 24/7 about what's going on with the United States of America. We're not going to have anything left, because people do not like to be lied to. And that would be watching Rumble, where you can see the truth. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Mary. Appreciate it. Mary in St. Pete, everybody. Frank, what do you think?
Well, honestly, if you turn off all communications, you don't even get to see Rumble. So I don't sign on to that.
That's true.
And I don't sign on to the animatron thing either. That's very Alex Jones. But he is being run by a committee, and that's not what this country is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about electing a leader who executes the laws that are created by the legislative branch. It is important to pay attention to Congress as well, because if the Congress stays as corrupt as it is, remember, staffers don't leave Washington. They just move from elected official to elected official. Unless there's a change in the staffers on Capitol Hill, everything remains the same. Same with the White House and the executive branch. If all the people remain the same, like Obama 2.0, then you get the same agenda. So the sea change has to happen at every level, and you have to sweep out the old and in with the new when you have an administration change or when elected official changes in Congress. Now, moving forward, trying to deroot Obama 2.0 from Washington means destroying the deep state. It must be dismantled. The bureaucracy must be dismantled. And if you can't do that, the only way to survive for our republic is through nullification at the state level to hobble the federal government. But remember, you are responsible for dividing what is truth and what is not truth. That means you have to read and consume multiple sources on a single story to find the common elements to it so that you know what's going on. Don't just consume stuff. Research.
Indeed. Yeah. And you got to make sense of it all, and you got to be informed. Well, I'll tell you what, let's head over to the next telephone line here. We've got Anthony in Tampa this morning on with Frank Salvato. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning. You know, it's amazing how low the local media would stoop to the fact that only on conservative radio would the truth come out as to Trump's speech on January 6th. It's clear, unless he was talking subliminally, the message was just clear. He wanted a peaceful gathering there. And for the media and the political, each station has a political editor. And the total dishonesty of these news outlets to dismiss what he actually said and impose their left-leaning ideology into what he was supposed to be saying to make him out to be this insurrectionist is one more clear signal do people need to disconnect, and like Mary said, disconnect from these outlets. They're just pouring out disingenuous, deceptive news, and it left this Democratic Party was so gung-ho on pushing their dangerous, diabolical agenda. They totally overlooked the disaster they had in this leader. Now, you know, yes, for sure, his condition plays into it. But like one of your earlier callers said, Kyle, I don't dismiss any of this guy's past dealings. The guy who's stooped in evil, and evil comes upon evil. So, you know, it's a shame, but you look at his past, and you can't dismiss that. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, Anthony in Tampa. We appreciate the call very, very much. And I think we got time for one more call, Frank, and this is Backgammon Bob giving you a call this morning. Good morning, Backgammon Bob. You're on with Frank Salvato.
Yes, it's pretty obvious there's no chance that he's going to make it till the election, although I was hoping he would make it because I think he would be very extremely easy to beat and all that, but I just think there's no chance that he's going to make it till the election. No chance. And I always referred to Trump as being a convicted felon. Well, they ought to refer to Biden as untried felon, because that's what he is. Has a lot of untried crimes. Is what he is. I don't know who the Democrats could plug in for sure. Michelle Obama, there's a lot of them talk about, but I think there's probably some other ones that are halfway possible to be, acceptable. But they're going to have to plug somebody, and there's no chance this guy's going to make it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Thanks, Backgammon Bob. We'll give Frank a chance to respond here. Then we're heading out to break. But thanks for calling. We'll talk to you again real soon. Backgammon Bob, everybody. Frank, what do you think about what he was saying?
Ever since Obama, I've been saying that the far left, the Marxist far left, has seen the goal line and is sprinting for it, while Republicans and conservatives have been on the 50-yard line trying to tape their hockey sticks. They haven't been playing the game that the left has been playing. Now they've got two people. I said this a little bit earlier. Gavin Newsom and Hillary Clinton, with the old or the new. They've got two people who are devout Marxists who don't care about destroying things for the acquisition of power. So we need to look at who's puppeteering these people, calling them out, and putting them on the ballot. Because when that choice comes, nobody wants it. If you like the podcast, please rate it and comment if your platform lets you. Go over to undergroundusa.com and subscribe to the Substack, and pick up your copy of Nullification, available on Amazon. But more importantly, talk to your friends, family, colleagues, and acquaintances about politics and religion. Do it calmly and employ facts over emotion. You'll be surprised how much you have in common with a great many of those you talk to. It's something we can all do to preserve the Republic. My name is Frank Salvato, and you're listening to Underground USA.